I'll hit record and we're ready to go.
All right. All right, everybody. Welcome. For those of you who don't know, my name is Scott Still. For those of you who do know, I thank you for wanting to put up with me for the next 45 minutes. Um, I'm starting my 11th year, according to Facebook, and officiating here. Last 8 have been with the Lancaster Lebanon League. I'm here today to kind of go over some. I know that the official training is entitled Court Mannerisms, and I want to break down 4 different parts of communication on the floor and some off the floor that you're going to deal with on a night in, night out basis. So whether I'm giving a presentation at my real job, at this job, or anything, my first thing is I want it to be interactive. So if you have something to say, don't save it till I'm done talking, because I'm a little bit of a talker. So if you have something to say, take yourself off mute. Just go, hey, Scott, speak up. I want this to be as interactive as possible. There are no dumb questions. The only dumb questions are the ones that aren't asked. So, you know, fairly informal, but just, want to pass along as much information, have as much good discussion as I can here. So, all right. So there's 4 groups that we communicate with night in, night out on the court. Okay. And we're going to go over each one of those groups individually. The first one are referees and game personnel. I view game personnel on the same team as referees because they should be just as impartial as we are, looking to make things run efficiently as fair as possible. The second group are players. I think that's relatively self-explanatory. Third group is our favorite group, is coaches. And the fourth group is fans. And you might not think of fans as people you interact with, but when you start breaking it down into student sections and some other things, you'll see there are some interactions to be had, and there's a proper way to handle those. Okay, so first off, we're going to go with referees and game personnel. I always mention game personnel along with referees because we're all on the same team. They're our team. Okay, when I go over to the table, if I'm an R before the game, introduce yourself to everybody. Sometimes they'll know you, sometimes they won't. But I like to say, you're on the best team out here tonight because you have a 0% chance of losing. Okay. But there's also, me alluding to the fact that, they are a part of our team. They are impartial. I will not have a scorekeeper yelling at one of us or yelling at a coach or anything like that. That's not going to happen. I will not have a clock operator, give any of us any lip. They're on our team. Okay. So that's not going to take place either. So the first thing is be attentive and kind from the entrance to the building. So when you're walking in, whether you're a JV official, varsity official, whatever time you're walking in that night, you're walking into the gym, you're going to see the ticket takers. They're going to point you in the right direction. Smile and, introduce yourself. Say thank you. They're going to point you, I know at Lebanon, the ticket takers point you to the game personnel who walk you back into the locker room and hand you off to somebody else. Say a couple nice words to the people. They remember these sorts of things. Okay. It just makes everybody's night easier. So from the time you get there, remember to represent yourself in the chapter as well as you can. Next one is having a good pregame. Okay, you're in, you're through, you've talked to people, you're in the locker room, your partner or partners get in there. You always want to have a good pregame. Okay. There are people, there are officials that, they'll go into the pregame and just kind of sit there and nod along. Yep. No. There should be talking points for every pregame. You should ask questions. Do you know the teams? Do you know the coaches? Are there specific scenarios you're looking for? Points of emphasis this year. You want to have a good talkative pregame. Okay. Now, JV officials, that might be a little more difficult. For a 6 o'clock game, one of you might be getting there at 5:45. That happens. You can still run through it in a couple minutes on your way out to the floor. Okay. But it's important that you start your communication with your partner as early as possible. Okay. And that starts with a good pregame. Address the table. Like I said, if you're the R, you go over, you're checking the books, you're making sure the ball's inflated right, have a couple smiles, couple laughs. You start building rapport with them right there. Okay. And it might not seem important, but I've had tables call me over in the middle of the game and we have a discussion about something. Now, it might be a 5 or 10 second discussion, but they have that comfort level with me. Okay. I had one table the one time say, it's really good that when you signal the numbers for the players, you actually signal the numbers. It's not, number 10 is not like this, or 34 or some, you say them and you project them clearly. It's the little things like that. The tables will remember that and they'll become more comfortable with you. Again, it's kind of getting everybody on your side. I know we're not out here to kiss butt and everything and make sure everybody likes us, because we know that's never going to happen. But just be as friendly and outgoing as possible. Okay. Be aware of your surroundings. So you come out on the floor, the music's playing, there's 20 players on the court in warm-ups, gym's filling up, hopefully. Look around. Not just to take it all in. That's always a good thing, though. Look around, take a deep breath. All right, this is where you want to be on a Friday night. But, observe things. Okay, does this court have 1,700 lines on? Is the majority of the thick color of the baseline, is it the same as the out of bounds line? Make sure that the players are properly equipped and all that stuff. Just, you don't want to go out there and just stare straight ahead like you're in a daze. Look around, take things in, make comments to your partner about stuff. Every game I have, I guarantee you I'm talking to at least one of my partners on the court before the 2-minute mark hits and we go over to shake hands with the coaches. It could be something stupid, it could be something funny, it could be something about the game, but you start the conversation then. Verbal and nonverbal communication during a game with your partner. I'd say 80% of your conversation with your partner during a game is going to be nonverbal. Okay. What does that start with? It starts with good mechanics. You have good mechanics. That's how we speak. We speak through our hands. Okay. We tell a story with our hands and with our signals. So our voices don't necessarily matter if they can see everything else. If you come out with a good player control foul signal, guess what? It doesn't matter what's coming out of your mouth. Everybody in the gym knows what it is. Then you're just going over and reporting it. Okay. But the biggest thing is communicating with your partners. The simple things. We got one shot, we got 2 shots, we got a spot throw in over here, timeout, is it 30 seconds? Is it full? Nonverbal communication is the biggest thing on the court, because you can't stand there and have a conversation with your partner during the gameplay. But you can look at your partner, thumbs up, whatever it may be. So that is incredibly important. You don't want to go through a half without acknowledging your partner in some way, shape, or form. And I would say you should probably be doing it 5 to 10 times a quarter, because the more you're in sync with your partner, the more both of you will be in sync with the game. Next thing is talk at halftime. You got a good game. It's 30-28 at halftime. You don't want to go in the locker room and just be like, yep, well, we killed that one. No. First off, nobody's perfect. Second off, there's going to be plays that people have questions on. I can have a play at the beginning of the first quarter. I'll hold it with me until halftime, go in the locker room and be like, guys, look, you need to help me with this. Did you see this? And it's either yes or no. And if somebody says no, I'm glad they do, because I don't want people to agree with me for the sake of agreeing with me. If you think I screwed up, tell me. I got no issues with that. I am not that proud at all. But at halftime, you not only want to discuss the half that just happened, but what are we going to do to address that going forward? What are we looking for in the second half? Does any of the star players have 3 fouls? Has there been too much of this during the game that we need to keep an eye on? Okay. You're recapping the first half, but I mean, it's just like a coach would do when going in the locker room. Here's what we did wrong. Here's what we did right. Here's what we're going to do in the second half. You often hear on TV, football and basketball games, what changes are the coaches, what adjustments are they going to make in the second half? We're the exact same way. We got to make the same sorts of adjustments. I've been involved in games where we get to halftime, it's like, we got to tighten this up because we don't want something stupid to happen. Okay, that's a collective decision as a crew. And it's important to communicate whatever you're thinking or feeling, because if you saw something or you heard something and you sit on it, and midway through the third quarter, something sparks an explosion, That's on you. Don't keep it to yourself. So you go through the second half, you know, game ends fine, buzzer sounds. First thing, get off the court. That buzzer sounds, it's not time to fraternize or, you know, talk with people. Get off the court. Nothing good is going to happen by you, you know, taking your time to get off the court, talking with somebody, talking with a player. No, off the court. You want to do that after the game, that's fine. But whether JV level, varsity level, get out of there. You also want to talk after the game. You know, I've seen officials, they come in the locker room after the game. In 3.5 minutes, they're gone. What good does that do anybody? Unless you're going to another game, which as a JV or varsity official, you're probably not, because there really aren't any other games at that point. If it's, you know, 7:30 at night, stick around for a little bit. You know, that's where we build trust and communication as well. If you stay for 3 minutes and bust out the door, I guarantee you there's going to be other guys in there going, might not say anything, but it's noticed. So do yourself a favor, stick around, talk about what happened. If you're a JV official, pick the varsity guys' brains. You know, normally they have to, shortly after the JV officials come in, that's their sign to, okay, we got to head out. Stick around for a little bit. I'm not saying stick around for the whole game. Let's stick around for a little bit. Soak it in. Let anything you have to let out, and then go from there. All right, so that's referees and game personnel. Any questions on any of that? Any comments on any of that?
I have a question.
Ben,
So do we have to link up with an arbiter pay account, or what should we do with that?
Entirely up to you. I do it. I know a number of officials do it. It's easiest for me that way. There's a number of schools who you'll get paid when you're on your way home. There's some of them you won't be looking at your phone, but you'll have a notification like 5 minutes into the game that you've been paid. So I find that easier, but it's basically, if you don't take arbiter pay, you're going to get payment by check, and it's either going to be, they'll send it out once every 2 weeks, once a month, or like you'll get it at the end of the year, at the end of the season. So it's up to you, but I recommend it just for.
Okay, so arbiter pay basically gets me paid sooner, at the soonest possible.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Now, another question: do we, what kind of account do we link up with it? Our bank account, a PayPal, a Venmo, Cash App?
Entirely up to you.
Okay.
I think I have a bank account and a PayPal link to it, but you can do whatever you want. All right. Anybody else got anything before we move on to players? All right. So players, there's going to be 10 of them on the court at all times. At least there better be. Okay. You know, you don't want to have any correctable errors by having the wrong number of players on the court or anything like that. And I will say ad nauseum, the best way to prevent correctable errors is to not have correctable errors, because they are not fun to correct. Okay. So 10 players on the court at all times. You know, they're running around, bumping into each other, making moves, playing defense, playing offense, trying to get the ball, that fun stuff. You can't not communicate with them. Okay. Can't do it. It's not a way for a good game. First thing I will say is break the ice early. You're out on the floor. You're standing there during warm-ups. Again, music's going, players going by. Make eye contact with them. Some of them don't like to do that. There's a lot of 15 to 18-year-old kids who the only communication form they have is looking down at their phone. Not on my court. I want to talk to people. I want to look people in the eye when I talk to them. Some of them make it easy. They'll come up to you when you're standing on the opposite end of the court. Hey, ref, how's it going? Have a good one tonight. Thanks for doing this. Great. Break the ice. They're human just like we are. I love talking to people. I tell them all the time, I love talking to people. Y'all won't talk to me. I like to think I'm approachable. I guess that's up for interpretation. But at the same time, I love talking to people out there. Now, I'm not going to have a running dialogue with anybody because that's non-productive. But break the ice early. Okay. I mean, you got JV players out there. Some of them are as young as 14 years old. It's their first time in a huge high school gym. Say something stupid, make them laugh. Okay. Not hard to do. Comfort level. Communicate during warm-ups. Okay. So 2 teams out there. Girls game. They got all kinds of different undershirts on. You know, all kinds of bright colors. Looks like a Taylor Swift concert. That's not going to happen. Okay. That's where we got to communicate. Okay. You and you, those need to come off. Now, is that easy? No, because every team wears shooting shirts now. And they like to hide everything until there's a minute left on the clock. Then they take those shirts off, and then we have to decipher those things. But if there's anything you notice that is not right, you know, this player has a hard cast on their arm. Well, that's not going to work. You know, we're relaxing the rigidity of the uniform violations. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a thing. You know, something I've seen a lot in the past few years, the camouflage, the different color compression shorts underneath the uniforms. They're not legal. Every single one of those are illegal. Okay. If you see it, you have to address it. Because if you don't address it, it's going to happen again. And then 3 games down the road, they're going to be told about it. And they say, well, we've already played 4 games. Nobody said anything. No, get it first. But again, communicate with them. You see something, say something. Talk to them through plays early in the game. Okay, something I like to do, something I know a lot of officials like to do. There's post play early on. Ball enters the post. Defender immediately puts an arm bar in the offensive player's back. I'm standing there. Nope, get it off. Amazingly enough, comes down. Trying to make a entry pass to the other side. Hands all over him. I said, no hands, not tonight. No hands. The hands will come off. The best time to do that is when the ball is not in your area and the ball's on the other side. And they assume everybody's looking over there. And I'm looking at him going, let go of his jersey. And he just turns around like, oh, it's the best time to do it. Because then it's in their head, crap, this guy's paying attention. Talk them through things. You're the trail official out top. 1 hand, 2 hands. Nope, hands off, hands off. Don't just say that though. You know, there's a post move, defender wall, straight up, jump straight up. Straight up, all right, we're good, good job. I don't care if it's a missed shot or a made shot. He played great defense. The offensive player didn't plow through him. We're running down the other end of the court. Now, am I going to do that every time? No. I might do that once or twice. I'm not there to announce the game. I'm there to officiate it. But again, you do that, you're building a rapport with the players. You may not realize it, but then when they come up to you and ask you a question, they're like, well, this guy, you know, this man, this woman, they probably know what they're talking about. Quick answer, you're down the other end. Eye contact. I'm huge on eye contact. If you're talking to somebody on the court, look at them every single time. I don't care if it's a coach blasting you. Look at them. Always want to look at players. At a playoff game last year, one of the best players on the court comes up to me, just asked a really quick question. I gave him a really quick answer. You know what he did? Tapped me on the shoulder and said, thank you. Be amazed what that does. I could be having a crappy game and go, guess I didn't suck that bad. Little things. It's the little things. And it's the same thing from us to them. Address their concerns. Sir, can you keep an eye? 90% of what I get is, can you keep an eye on this? They're not asking me to call a foul. They're not saying, why didn't you call this? Hey, can you keep an eye on number 12? Their screens are illegal. You got it. Thank you. Cool. Yeah, that's in my head now. They've planted that seed. I'm not going to go looking for it, but if it happens, I'm going to call it. Sir, did he travel? Nope. Pivot foot never left the ground. Okay, thank you. Quick. Quick question, quick explanation. We move on. We're not holding up the game to talk to players. Something as simple as how we doing? You know, you come out of a timeout, you're putting the ball in bounds, come out of halftime. Hey, 23, how's it going tonight? Good, good. Okay, how we doing? All right, yeah, we're good. Okay, don't lie to me. Again, a little bit of back and forth. Had a player last year, end of a playoff game, 1-point game, inbound, and the ball with 7 seconds left. He comes out, I'm holding the ball in my hand. I just look at him. He looks at me and he just smiles. I'm like, I don't need to say anything. This is what you want. I dribbled the ball. I said, here we go. One of the neatest moments, his mom was a photographer, was sitting right behind us. She took a picture as I was handing the ball to him. I will have that one for a long time. No words on it, but I knew everything that was happening right there. Again, just the little thing. How's it going? How we doing? How was school today? You'll get a real good look at that because you're not talking about basketball. So, yeah, just again, the little things. Again, I kind of mentioned this, explain and move on. Sir, that wasn't an offensive foul. Yeah, it was. You hooked him. That's it. Sir, was that a block? No, it wasn't. He was still moving towards the basket. Okay. 9 times out of 10, if they're asking about one of their teammates, they didn't see it. They just want to know. Okay. That wasn't a travel. Well, yes, it was. Okay. Quick explanation, quick reason, move on. Related to that, the last part of this one, be honest. If you lie to them, they'll know in a second and they'll lose respect for you. I've had to admit I didn't see things. I'm looking in the lane. I got 3 6'6" guys banging on each other. There's a loose ball behind them, and a kid gets clocked. How did you not see that? I would walk right up to him and go, not only can I not see through you, I can't see through him either. Oh, okay. Be honest. Don't make it up. Don't say I don't think he got hit. You didn't see it. Now, don't make a living off saying I didn't see it because that'll be a problem. But just be honest. If you miss something, if you're blocked from something, be honest. If you have something to say that they don't want to hear, say it in a way that isn't confrontational, but be honest. You know, I had a player come up to me last year. How did you call that? When he drove around you, you grabbed him. Oh, all right. He knew he did it. Absolutely knew he did it. Trying to get away with it. Just be honest. All right. Any questions on players? Brian, very good comment. There's no bad time to start this. Do it in spring, do it in summer, do it in the fall.
I will say this. I was at a summer league this summer. I don't know if you know of CJ Hoop for Hope.
Sure do.
I ref there this summer, and there were plenty of games where I was a solo ref, and there were a lot of missed calls. And I just said, hey, look, I'm a solo ref. I can't see it all. I'm not going to be in the right spot to make the right call. I will do my best, but just know I'm one person. Normally there's 2, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. Thanks.
That's what you're doing. You're set the expectation, whether it's good or bad. And again, these players are human. They'll realize that. They absolutely will. That's a good example there.
Also, during the same summer league, there was actually one instance where I was actually with a partner, so I had a partner ref with me, and my partner was at the site of the incident, and I'm glad it was her, not me, because if it had been me, the trash talking between the 2 players would have resulted in and it'd been going the whole entire game too, and it was like 5 minutes left in the game. 15-minute quarter. So they were trash talking the most of the game. And if it had been me, I'd have teed both of them up because they'd already been warned twice, and I'd have teed them up if I'd have been at the spot, not my partner.
Well, there's the problem. They had been warned twice. We don't do 3 strikes and you're out, especially in the summer. If they get 1 warning from me in the summer, they're lucky. There won't be 2. And I've said that to people in the summer league in high school. I'm like, I'm not telling you again. And that it's not the 3rd time I've told them. So yeah. And that's preventative officiating and being proactive. Because the longer you allow it, the more you condone it, the more they think they're going to be able to get away with it, and that's only going to make things worse. Brian, I saw you were off mute. Did you want to add to something?
I was just going to tell a story about communicating with players. I don't know how it happened, but there was a group of E-Town players that I apparently have bumped into a number of times. This fall, I was refereeing their soccer game. And as we're going through the handshake line, 2 or 3 of them came up to me and go, "We're going to see you on the basketball court this year." So it's one of those things where if you start communicating to kids, I've seen them since they're elementary kids. It matters. It helps. I think it was Travis who told me long ago too, to not be afraid to hand out technicals or whatever when they're deserved at a young age, because then they'll remember you as they grow. You're going to grow. You're going to mature. You're going to get varsity games over the next couple of years. You won't have problems with those players.
Mm-hmm. That's another great example. I had one at Warwick 2 years ago. I'm not a technical foul giver. I probably should give out more. It's a point of emphasis this year. I might have to hop on that train. I think it normally makes things easier on us. I had a junior high game, and then I had the varsity game later that night. Junior high game, kid makes a shot. And this was back when the bow and arrow celebration was incredibly popular with the kids. And he looked at the defender from 2 feet away and went like this. And I popped him right there. Coach went off. Fans are, I'm like, no, not in his face. Coach goes, "What do you do?" I said, "Made a shot. I don't care if you shoot the bow and arrow into the stands in the air, where you shoot it, you don't shoot it in the defender's face." He goes, "Oh, okay." Fast forward to that night. I'm done with the varsity game, dress, go out to my car. Warwick's assistant coach comes over to me. I'm like, oh, Christ. He goes, "That technical in the junior high game." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You just made my job a lot easier." I said, "Really?" And then Warwick's head coach comes over and goes, "Yeah, what happened there?" And I told him. He goes, "Nope." And I just thought, okay, well, here's a 5-minute conversation I had with both of them. They either heard about it or saw it and went, "Yeah, that's the absolute right move." So yeah, again, you're not only establishing the tone there, but then you have other people looking at you going, "Hey, he's not going to put up with that." And I agree with him. That's a win-win right there. All right. Anybody else before we move on to coaches? All right, coaches. They are our favorite people to deal with. You know, they're all nice. You know, some of them make us cookies before the game and give them to us. Just there's never any issues with coaches. We have to talk to them more. We probably have to admonish them more. But the one constant is they are there every single game, and every one of them requires different handling. Okay. So the first thing I'll say is they remember, you forget. Okay. We cannot have, you know, memories like an elephant. Can't do it. Okay. We have to let things go, or we'd all quit by the middle of December. Okay. A couple years ago, I teed up a coach in a game, in an away game, and then I had him later that week in a home game. Wasn't really looking forward to it. So I'm standing watching the JV game, and I feel this hand on my shoulder. And before I could even turn around, he goes, "Man, I really earned that one, didn't I?" And he starts laughing. And I looked, I'm like, "Yeah, you did." They remember these things. And that was also him owning up to it, going, "Oh, man, that was my fault." They remember. It's our job to kind of take that, put it in a box, put it on a shelf somewhere, because we can't carry that. We can't carry that sort of thing game to game. I mean, you know the type of person these coaches are, but we don't come into the game holding grudges or anything like that. They not only remember our faces, they remember how we call games. You'd be really surprised how much these people remember. Okay, it's their job. It's our job. When we leave one game, it's time to look forward to the next game. They are human beings. Remember that. They're out there yelling at their team. They're yelling at us. They're yelling at the other coaches. But deep down, they are human beings. Treat them as such. Talk to them. Don't be confrontational with them. Talk to them. Remember, we answer questions. We don't answer statements. Okay, we'll get into that in a little bit. Talk to them. I had one coach say to me one time, man, how do you handle this pressure? This is a true story. Okay. If you ever doubt the validity of this story, you can bring it up to Rick Hartle because he stole this line from me and used it during a game. I said, Coach, I have 5 children and an ex-wife. This ain't pressure. The coach looked at me, turned around, started laughing, shrugged his shoulders, and that was that. That's a great way to disarm them. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to work all the time, but you know, they're human too. They might have had a rough day. Their kids have really pissed them off. You know, there's a time and a place for levity. Find that time and place and use it. Because again, you can have that in your back pocket as well. Again, like I just mentioned, we don't reply to statements. Scott, that was a foul. Great. I'm not answering that. What are you looking at? Well, I guess that's a question, but I'm not going to address that question. Scott, wasn't that a travel? Ha. No, it wasn't. It was an ugly slow Euro step, but it was not a travel. Are you sure? Yes. Okay. I will answer almost any question. I had a playoff game a couple years ago. I had Cedar Cliff. I had their head coach previously a long time ago, but not any time recent. And he thought his big guy was getting pushed around a little bit, which he was, but it was within the rules. Come down court, I'm right in front of him. Wasn't there some contact on that jumper down there? Now I've got to play right in front of me, and I'm focusing on that. Ball gets past the other side. He goes, are you going to answer me? I'm like, yes. To answer your question, no. And that was that. He wanted an answer. He got an answer. But he reminded me about it. And I actually like that because he was inquisitive. He wanted to know. I didn't have the time to have a long conversation. It was a quick no. Move on. You'll get statements all game long. I run past statements. You got a question for me? You don't have to answer right at that second. I've said to coaches, Coach, next step ball, I got you. There's a timeout. I go over. That coach has calmed down. I can clearly explain in a 5 or 10 second snippet. Okay, we're good. Move on. Don't respond to statements, so you'll be responding all night. How do you address questions, issues about your partner? Good question. We're a team. I got that. Man, last year was a great example of that. I had Exeter and Hershey in a district semifinal. Just verbal haymakers all game. It was crap. Exeter's coach, my partner had called a foul on the floor that everybody in the gym thought was a shooting foul. And I was the next person to call a foul. And I just thought, well, here we go. How was that? I said, Coach, it was, no, not your foul. The one before that. I'm like, the one before that. That was a shooting foul. No, I said, Coach, my partner was 5 feet away from the play. I was 25 feet. I do not doubt that he got that call right. That was the worst call I've ever seen. I said, Coach, that was the worst call you've ever seen. Yes. I said, well, then you have not been looking. You haven't been watching a long time. And at that point, he just kind of walked away. Support your partners. There's going to be times you're going to have to take a bullet. There's going to be times you're not going to have to take a bullet. I've already had a coach grab my ear. How did you not see that, coach? I was in the, no, not you, him. Well, you said me, but okay. Coach, he's 3 feet away from the play. He's going to have a look at it. My favorite ones are when I'm at the other end of the floor. That was a foul down there, coach. You're 70 feet away with 7 guys in between you and the ball. My partner's 7 feet away. I'm going with him. Yeah, all right. Support your partners. I know at times it can be challenging. They're still closer to it than you are. Okay, I always say we, because it is. We're a team. That was a good question, Brian. It's going to sound weird. Don't be afraid to gently put your hands on a coach. I'll give you an example. Last year, I was down at a CV for a league playoff game, relatively high and intense atmosphere. First time out, one of Cedar Crest's assistants, I know him. He comes out and goes, Scott, let me ask you a quick question. And he's walking towards the court during a timeout. Went up to him, put my arm around him. I said, Art, I will answer you, but we're going to walk back to the huddle. Oh, okay. Yep, that's fine. I'm like, yeah. There's times you need to guide coaches. Okay. Especially back into the coaching box. Another huge point of emphasis this year. It's as simple as me going, okay, Tommy, yes. Okay, first off, we're going to back up. Setting the expectation. I'm not saying that works with everybody. I'm not saying you should try that with everybody. But on occasion, that's more, that's a nonverbal communication. Hey, let's walk this way. And I've already said to guys, coach, you got to walk with me, because if you don't walk with me, you're not going to like the outcome. Okay. Yeah, all right. It's the little things. Again, that won't work in every situation, but occasionally, especially when they're outside of the coaching box, I found that's the best way to do it. I used to say, coach, get back. I'm like, wait, that's confrontational. I don't like that. We'll try it the nice way first. Eventually enough is enough. Period. I've had my fair share of saying, coach, I'm done. That's what I say. I'm done. I'm not listening to this anymore. The game is 3 minutes old. There's been 3 plays on this end, and you've complained about every one of them. I'm done listening to you. If I hear it again, we're either getting a warning or we're getting one of these. We all have our breaking points. We all have our secret word that if they say, that's going to be automatic. Know what those are. Again, set the expectation. It's like with your kids. Look, I'm not putting up with this anymore. Now, we can't ground them, but we can sit them on the ground or on the bench, either way. But if you let them continually go on and on, there was a coach who's no longer in the league who put on quite a show a couple years back. And there was another coach in the stands. And we said after the game, can you believe him? He goes, well, you guys have been condoning it for the last 8 years. I went, shit, you're right. Absolutely right. It's on us. We give coaches too much leash. And I think we have to be firmer with that leash. There's a happy medium to be found. But I can tell you, if a coach is on the floor throwing his hands up in the air, nope. You're gonna be sitting down. Lastly, this is kind of to the question that Brian had. Sometimes you just got to take it. We all make mistakes, and I've seen examples on film. I've seen examples in games where I've already said to a coach, just you got 30 seconds. There was an official in our chapter last year who during an intense situation in a game went over to a coach, God bless him, said, Coach, let me have it. Don't curse. Don't throw your arms up in the air. Just stood there and took it. You got to do it sometimes. You got to fall on your sword. We've all been there. But the big thing is, then we move on. I'm not relitigating this every time down the court. Not doing it. There's coaches who run a little hotter than others. Last year, I had one who just looks at me and goes, Scott, not sure I agree with that one. said his name. I said, that's great because you said that one. If I only mess up one time, well, no, you got to be happy with that, right? He goes, can't argue. Well, then everybody has a laugh and we move on. He knows I'm not out to get him. So, any questions on coaches? They're not all easy to deal with, but we do have to deal with them. We can't just let the problem run amok.
Scott, to your point before when you were talking about, coaches are human. I mean, you don't know what's going on in their program, what pressure they're getting from parents and the family. I've had coaches come up to me and just say, hey, I just need to yell at you. My parents say I don't yell enough. And, wasn't really yelling about anything, but just being animated with the coach because the parents said that that's part of being a coach. And, that's that dialogue, as Scott said, you build that rapport with coaches where they feel comfortable coming over and telling you that. That's probably one of the bigger, you see them out in summer league, or you see them even at the junior high games and all that. They're, especially for younger officials, they're watching a lot of our younger officials coming up, and they're, when you get up, that that's going to be something that they remember from then too. The other thing I will say too with coaches, as you progress up as an official in your first varsity game or your first year fully doing varsity, if you're Scott and Brian are doing a game and I'm the first year guy, be okay with the fact that you are going to be wrong the whole night, no matter what. As the new face, you are wrong every single time. And Brian can kick 3 calls, Scott will kick 3 calls. You miss one and they're on you because you're the new face, and they want to, that's just something that you have to be okay with that first couple of years until your face is known.
That's a great point. And I've had that happen where I was one of the experienced faces, and the coach, Scott, I'm like, oh, now I'm good. I'm like, no, we're either going to be consistent about this or we're not. But yeah, and Jay makes a lot of good points there. When you're newer on the scene, they're coming after you because they don't know you. Can I crack this person? Are they any good? To Jay's other point, the coaches, they have to yell because the parents won. And I had a game last year. Coach was jumping up and down. Scott, how did you miss that? I said, Coach, it was right off his foot. I didn't see it anyway. I'm like, and he just kind of goes like this. I'm like, because that's okay. But yeah, in those situations, you hold your ground. You try not to laugh too much with your whistle in your mouth, and you move on. All right, last one, and this is one that I don't think gets talked about too much, is fans. We try to limit interactions with fans as much as possible, but during the course of a game or a season, you will have interactions with fans, with student sections, mostly good-natured, but you have to be on lookout for some things. The first thing I wrote down here in all caps: never yell at a paying customer ever. Do not yell at a student section. Do not yell at fans. Okay. In the beginning of this, I said you want to be sure to be friendly to game management. At every game, at every school, there is a game manager. That is a requirement. Most of them tell us, before the game, if you need anything, I will be here. Well, that is an instance where you go there. Okay. If you got a problem with a fan, or you have a problem with a student, or you have a problem with whoever, the janitor, and it rises to the fact of this is now becoming an impediment to the game, you go to them. You do not go to the fan. A lot of times, the higher stakes the game, the more they'll be on top of that. If any of you have ever been to a league final, there are monitors sitting next to each student section, but if they don't sit down in fast enough time, they're over there telling them to sit down. A lot of times they catch it before we even do. I've had various game managers come up to me during timeouts after they saw something. What do you want me to do? And the one time I looked at them, I said, all right, I want you to just look me dead in the eye right now. And I looked at the students who were acting up. I said, I don't want you to do anything. Just keep looking at me. I don't want you to do anything. But I'm looking at that person right now, and I'm probably scaring them half to death. So when I'm done talking, I just want you to nod your head and go stand over there. He goes, oh, you got it. There were no issues the rest of the night. I don't want to kick anybody out. I don't think anybody does. But there's an occasion where that can happen. I was working a game last year, and one of my partners had a fan thrown out, deservedly so, because this was not a full gym, and this fan was acting a fool. I don't care if you're loud and boisterous, if you're being respectful, but when you start dropping obscenities, you got to go. So we don't like to do it, but if there's ever an issue, find the game manager. They're normally not difficult to find, and they will support you probably 98% of the time. I've never had an issue yet. Student sections are meant to be fun. Have fun with them. If you've ever done a game in LS, their student section is great. You come out, and I was a Catholic last year, and during a timeout, I made the mistake of looking into the student section. And the one just starts going like this to me. And I just kind of shook my head like this and trying to suppress a smile. Well, then dead silent in the gym. Ref, what's your Venmo? I lost it. I lost it right there on the court. And my partner came over, and we're just, having a laugh about it. But, it's mostly fun. You interact with them for a couple seconds before the game. Most of them know that there's a line not to cross. Most of them also have a babysitter teacher watching them. So again, it's not the end of the world if you talk to them for a couple seconds, especially before the game, because that kind of, there's time, I BS with them. All right, you guys are on my side tonight, right? Yeah. I'm like, just making sure, because you're going to hate me at some point, but you can't hate me that much now. So just, it's meant to be fun. And that's, those are probably the loudest people all game anyway. Fans can be crazy. We can't. Again, this falls under, again, don't react to the fans. Fans are impulsive. They will stand up, scream, everything else. Never scream back to them. Never carry a grudge because of something a fan did. We are to be, stoic, even keeled, happy, all that stuff. Is it easy a lot of times? No, but this is what we signed up for. So this is what we have to do. Make friends, not enemies. Okay. I always like to, especially at places like it, I know at Elko, there's these two elderly guys who sit right across the table every game at half court. And I always ask them, all right, you can have my whistle. I'll switch seats with you. You got the best seats. No, we don't want to do that. They have a little laugh. The people around them have a little laugh. There was a guy at McCaskey, sits again, half court across from the table, wears an Oklahoma hat. I don't know this guy from anything. Went over to him the one day. I'm a big Nebraska fan. Talked to him for a couple minutes about Nebraska, Oklahoma. Had a nice laugh. Was down there again. Went over, shook his hand. Had a playoff game at LS. I come out, and he's sitting at half court. I'm like, well, I said, what are you doing here? Well, my team didn't make the playoffs, and I like basketball. I'm at McCaskey the first weekend. I am looking forward to it because I'm looking forward to seeing this guy. I don't even know what his name is. But he's going to smile. He's going to shake my hand, and I'm going to be like, it's going to be a great game. Make friends, not enemies. Okay? Another big thing, smile. It's contagious. You look like you're having a good time. People are not going to, it's human nature. People aren't going to come down on you as hard. Okay? Enjoy what you're doing out there. Last thing we always say before we go out on the court, have fun. Yeah, have fun. You're out here getting great cardio, running around with high school kids, getting paid for it. Have fun. You project that onto other people, and they're gonna be like, you know what? Well, maybe this is good. Maybe this is fun. Huge thing. I have smile written on every single page that I'm going over tonight. We can control our temperament. And yeah, some games are hard. Some games suck. But at the end of the day, we're doing what we want to. When in doubt, tune it out. Don't have rabbit ears. Okay? Please don't have rabbit ears. You're going to get called things. I could write a book with things I've been called. I don't think most of them are right, but I don't know. But get past it. I normally have a good chuckle with it. I will tell you, the year we wore masks, oh boy, I could say a whole lot of things under that mask. I had to catch myself the following year because I wasn't wearing a mask anymore and I couldn't say that stuff. But oh, that was the year of everything that was said to me, I was saying back. But yeah, tune it out. I mean, most of the time it's white noise anyway, but don't let it affect you to the point where you're going to make a bad decision. Last thing with fans, don't go looking for trouble. Okay. Someone's going to say something to you, don't engage them. Just don't. Move on. I like, during timeouts on occasion, I like to scan the crowd, see what I'm in for tonight, all that sort of stuff. I did that during a game once down in Reading. They have a relatively boisterous crowd. I came across this. I bet this woman was 75 years old if she was a day. Nicest little looking woman in her Reading sweatshirt. Her hair was in a perm and everything. I'm looking across. I made eye contact with her. She looks at me dead in the eye from across the gym and goes, "You suck." I'm like, well, this is going to be a story. What are you going to do? They don't like anybody. All referees are bad. But again, don't make a big deal of it. Tell it in a story after the game while you're having a beer. Most of the fans are good. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. There's some that are rowdy. There's some that are, you're like, wow, you must be a great person to deal with on a daily basis. For the most part, they're good. Treat them as such. We want to make this experience as best we can for everybody. All right, I'm up at 7:57. Anybody, any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts for the good of the cause?
I have a funny story in regards to a funny fan interaction. So during one of the plays in said summer league that I was at for CJ's Hoop for Hope, player shoots the ball and it gets stuck between the edge of the backboard and the rim. Players are trying to jump and knock it. Nobody is seeming. A coach even tried and couldn't. So I thought, you know what? Let me just try this one thing. So I take a 3-step running step jump, mount myself onto the basket or to the hoop, climb up the basket, knock the ball out, fall back to the ground. And I didn't even get to see who the kid was. Hey ref, you deserve a raise.
It's things like that. I've oftentimes jumped up and got a ball, unlodged. Now, not during a high school game, like during a summer league or something. And I will get more comments and cheers on that than I will for anything I ever do in my life on a basketball court. But again, it's levity. And everybody has a good laugh for a minute, and then you move on, and hopefully everything's good. Anybody else got anything? All right. Well, thank you all for taking the time away from the catastrophe that was the Eagles-Jets game. Jay, like I said, it did end 15-14, so there's that.
They hadn't screwed up, it would have been a tie.
All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for the time. Any questions, let me know. Be sure to attend the next training in, 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks a lot for setting everything up, Jay.